Welcome to the Sleepless Historian. If you find comfort in the soothing tales of history, consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel. And remember to turn on loop so the tranquil journey continues. As we settle in, dim the lights around you. Take a moment to adjust your pillow and wrap yourself in a soft blanket. Allow yourself to breathe slowly, in and out, finding a gentle rhythm that matches the calmness of this evening. Tonight, we will embark on a deeply detailed exploration of a most mundane topic, the dreadfully dull history of medieval feudal obligation paperwork. This topic may sound unexciting at first glance, yet it is filled with meticulous routines, precise measurements, and the subtle art of legal agreements. Willie, vassal, wash. Picture the vast, sprawling landscapes of medieval Europe, where knights and lords engaged in a complex web of relationships. Here, beneath the surface of grand battles and noble quests, lay a world governed by contracts and oaths. These contracts were not filled with the thrill of adventure, but instead consisted of intricate stipulations, obligations, and the fine print that defined loyalty and service. Little by little, we will delve into the specifics of vassal contracts. We will ponder the obligations that bound a lord to his vassals, and the duties that vassals owed in return. Each agreement was a delicate balance of power, carefully inked on parchment, often illuminated with the artistry of the time. Nin, ni shall, etusen, etiski, ein, idoi. We will explore the rituals of oath-taking, where loyalty was pledged not in grand speeches, but through methodical affirmations. These moments, though seemingly tedious, were the foundation of societal order. Together, we will examine the paperwork that governed the relationships of the medieval world. So settle in, relax your shoulders, and prepare to drift into a gentle reverie as we uncover the quiet, yet significant nuances of feudal obligation. As we settle in and breathe slowly, let us turn our attention to the tools and materials used in the crafting of vassal contracts during the medieval era. The parchment, a vital component, was made from animal skins, often sheep or goats. This parchment was prepared with care, washed and stretched, requiring precise measurements to ensure it was just the right thickness. A well-prepared sheet of parchment could measure approximately 20 by 15 inches, although sizes varied depending on the scribe's needs. The tools of the scribe were few, yet essential. A quill, carefully fashioned from a bird's feather, was the primary instrument of writing. Each quill was selected for its flexibility and sharpness. The tip was meticulously cut at an angle, allowing ink to flow smoothly. The ink itself was often made from a mixture of soot, gum, and water, boiled to a perfect consistency. A small ink pot, perhaps made of clay or glass, would hold this ink, sitting patiently on the scribe's desk. The desk, a simple wooden surface, often bore the marks of previous contracts, flecks of ink, and the impressions of tired hands. Here, the scribe would labor for hours, his hand gliding over the parchment, carefully forming letters in a graceful, flowing script. Each letter, each word, meticulously crafted to embody the weight of obligation. As we breathe gently, let us consider the process of composing a contract. It began with a formulaic introduction, stating the date and location of the agreement. This was followed by the names of the parties involved, often accompanied by their titles and estates. For instance, in the year of our Lord 1020, at the castle of Eldridge, I, Lord Berengar of Eldridge, do hereby declare. Each contract would then delve into the specifics of the obligations. Vassals were required to provide military service, often quantified in days or months. For the term of 40 days each year, I shall serve my lord in battle, might be stated, with careful attention to the exact duration. This precise language ensured clarity and mutual understanding. Next came the duties of the lord. The lord was obliged to provide protection to his vassal, as well as a certain amount of land to cultivate and call home. This land, measured in acres, would be noted within the contract, often described in terms of its fertility or suitability for crops. A typical measure might be a 10-acre field, sufficient to sustain a small family. After stipulating the obligations, the contract would require the insertion of penalties for failure to comply. These were often harsh, but necessary to maintain order. Should I fail to serve, I shall forfeit my right to the land, might be included, underscoring the seriousness of the commitments involved. Once the terms were fully articulated, the scribe would then prepare for the ritual of sealing the contract. This involved melting wax, often sourced from bees or trees, and pouring it onto the parchment. A seal, either a signet ring or a stamp, would imprint the wax with a unique design, symbolizing the authority of the Lord. This seal was vital, serving as a mark of authenticity, ensuring that the contract held legal weight. After the wax had cooled, the contract would be rolled up and tied with a ribbon, often of a deep crimson or royal blue, colors signifying nobility and power. The completed scroll was then stored in a wooden chest, carefully labeled for easy retrieval. These chests were often secured with a simple lock, the key held by the lord or trusted steward, ensuring that the agreements remained confidential and protected. As we breathe softly, let us reflect on the etiquette surrounding these contracts. The signing of a vassal contract was often accompanied by a small gathering. Lords and vassals would come together in a designated space, perhaps the great hall or a shaded courtyard. Here, the atmosphere was one of solemnity rather than celebration. Participants would stand or sit in a circle, each person aware of their place in the intricate tapestry of feudal relationships. The lord would read the contract aloud, his voice steady and calm. The vassal would listen intently, absorbing each word, each obligation. Once the reading was complete, the vassal would step forward, kneeling before the lord. In this moment, an oath would be taken, a promise of loyalty uttered softly, but firmly. I, vassal of the realm, pledge my loyalty, my sword, and my service. This ritual was not performed hastily. It required time, reflection, and a shared understanding of the weight of words. Those present would nod solemnly, acknowledging the gravity of the moment. Once the oath was taken, the contract would be signed, each participant adding their mark in ink, a final affirmation of commitment. Peninsui. As we explore this world, let us consider the schedule of these contracts. They were not signed lightly or frequently. Typically, a lord would convene a council once a year to review the existing obligations and enter into new agreements. This annual meeting could span several days, allowing for discussions, disputes, and negotiations to unfold. During these meetings, the atmosphere was often filled with the rustle of parchment as scribes hurried to record the proceedings. There was a rhythm to the conversations, a gentle ebb and flow as lords debated the terms of service and vassals voiced their concerns. Once agreements were reached, there would be a period of preparation before the contracts were formally signed. This might involve gathering witnesses, ensuring that the agreements were fair and just. The presence of witnesses was crucial. It added another layer of security to the contract, ensuring that it could not be easily disputed later. The witnesses, often fellow lords or respected individuals, would sign alongside the main parties, adding their seals to the contract. This process could take several hours, each signature requiring care and attention, reflecting the importance of the agreements. As we breathe deeply, let us remember the significance of storage. Completed contracts were kept in various locations, often in chests or cabinets, specially designed for the purpose. These storage spaces were often constructed with care, using durable wood and secured with sturdy locks. Chests might be adorned with carvings or painted designs, emphasizing their importance. They stood as physical representations of the bonds formed through ink and parchment, quietly holding the hopes and obligations of a feudal society. Little by little, we have journeyed through the details of medieval feudal obligation paperwork. Each moment, each tool, each agreement was part of a larger system that, while seemingly mundane, formed the backbone of daily life. As we settle in deeper, let us appreciate the quiet rhythm of this historical tapestry, woven with care and attention. The world of feudal contracts may not be filled with the drama of battles, but it carries a weight of its own, a soothing, steady pulse that echoes through the ages. As we ease into this gentle exploration of medieval feudal obligation paperwork, let us focus on the tools and materials that played a vital role in these transactions. The primary instrument of the scribe was the quill pen, crafted from the feathers of birds, often geese. The quill was selected carefully, ensuring it had the right balance and flexibility. The tip, or nib, was cut at an angle, allowing for smooth, flowing lines of ink. This simple yet effective tool was essential for creating the delicate script that filled each document. The ink itself was another important component. It was made from a mixture of water, soot, and various natural additives. Each scribe needed to prepare their ink freshly, ensuring it was the right consistency. The process involved grinding the soot with a small amount of water, and sometimes adding gum arabic to thicken it. This mixture was poured into small inkwells, which were often made of clay or glass, with a snug lid to keep the ink from drying out. As the scribe dipped the quill into the ink, they would begin to write with deliberate care. Each letter formed with precision, each word flowing slowly across the parchment. Parchment itself, made from treated animal skins, was a favored medium. It was soft, durable, and could be easily rolled or folded. The sheets were often large, measuring around 20 by 30 inches, providing ample space for the intricate details of feudal agreements. Once the text was completed, the ink required time to dry. This process could take several minutes, during which the scribe would refrain from touching the parchment. To avoid smudging, they would often hold the parchment by the edges, allowing the ink to settle gently. The scribe might engage in other tasks while waiting, perhaps preparing additional documents or organizing their storage. As we breathe deeply, let us consider the importance of organization in this meticulous process. Once completed, these documents needed to be stored properly. The chest or cabinet, often positioned in a secure room, was where these agreements found their final resting place. Each document was usually rolled rather than folded, preserving the integrity of the parchment. Rolled documents were tied with a simple string or ribbon, securing them neatly. The organization of these documents was of utmost importance. A system was often employed, categorizing contracts by type, date, or the names of the parties involved. Scribes would sometimes make notes on the outside of the roll, detailing the contents, to simplify retrieval when needed. These written records formed a vital archive, a library of obligations and promises that could be referenced at any moment. Little by little, the process of maintaining these records emerged as a ritual of sorts. It involved regular checks, ensuring that the documents remained in good condition. The keeper of the records might dust the chests and cabinets, making sure to handle each document with care. This routine, though unremarkable, provided a sense of order and reliability in a world that often felt chaotic. Why settle and time in one? Well, the act of retrieving a document was a careful procedure. The keeper would approach the chest and often pause, taking a deep breath before lifting the heavy lid. The weight of the chest itself served as a reminder of the significance of its contents. Inside, they would find layers of neatly rolled parchment, each representing a thread in the complex web of feudal obligations. With gentle hands, they would select the appropriate document, untying the string carefully, letting it fall softly to the side. The parchment would unroll with a delicate rustling sound, a soft whisper of history. The keeper would then read through the clauses, each line a reminder of the commitments made. In these moments, the quiet attention to detail came to life. The ink, still bold on the surface, spoke of promises and duties, of loyalty and protection. Every word was chosen with care, reflecting the values of the society that created them. Wow. As we settle deeper into this rhythm, we can imagine the careful etiquette that surrounded these transactions. When presenting a document for signature, the scribe would often read the contents aloud. This practice ensured that all parties understood their obligations. The words were spoken slowly, allowing time for contemplation. Each pause in the reading allowed the listeners to absorb the weight of the agreement. Once all parties were satisfied, the act of signing would commence. The scribe would provide a place for each party to inscribe their name, often accompanied by a mark, as many could not write. Each signature was a commitment, a bond sealed with ink on parchment. The scribe would then often add a date, marking the moment this agreement came into existence. As we breathe deeply, let us reflect on the significance of the dates inscribed. These dates were not just markers of time, they were milestones in the lives of those involved. They signified the beginning of relationships, the start of obligations that could last for generations. In the days following the signing, the documents would often be reviewed. This practice served as a reminder of the duties undertaken. Vassals were expected to fulfill their obligations to their lords, and these agreements acted as a guiding force. Each duty was outlined carefully, providing clarity in the relationship. The rhythm of life was dictated by these written words, a gentle reminder of the commitments made. As the seasons changed, so too did the obligations. Farming schedules, labor requirements, and tribute payments were all detailed within these contracts. The agricultural calendar provided a structure, dictating when obligations would be fulfilled. Whoa! Little by little, we can picture the harmony that emerged from this system. Each party understood their role, their responsibilities clear and defined. The contract served as a foundation, a shared understanding that guided the daily lives of vassals and lords alike. The process of fulfilling obligations was a slow, steady rhythm, much like the writing of the contracts themselves. Each task carried its own pace, from planting crops in spring to harvesting in autumn. Just as the scribe carefully crafted each document, so too did the vassals tend to their duties with attention and care. In this way, the mundanity of daily life intertwined gracefully with the legal intricacies of feudal contracts. Both were essential threads in the larger tapestry of medieval existence. They provided a sense of order, a soothing predictability in a world that often felt uncertain. As we bring our focus back to the tools and practices of this era, we find comfort in the simplicity of routine. The quills, the ink, the parchment, and the chests all served as silent witnesses to the lives and obligations of those who came before us. They remind us that history is often found in the small details, the seemingly mundane moments that shape our understanding of the past. Let us breathe deeply, inhaling slowly as we appreciate this intricate dance of duties and records, this gentle rhythm of life and obligation. Approaching these details with a sense of calm allows us to settle into the soothing embrace of history as we drift gently into slumber. As we continue to explore the intricate world of medieval feudal obligation paperwork, let us turn our attention to the tools that facilitated the creation and maintenance of these legal documents. The scribe, a figure both revered and essential, would often find themselves seated at a sturdy wooden desk, perhaps made of oak or elm. The desk, with its smooth surface, provided a stable foundation for the careful work ahead. The scribe would begin by selecting a quill, a slender feather, often from a goose or a raven. Each quill had its own unique characteristics, and the scribe would prefer one that felt comfortable in their hand. They would then dip the quill into a small inkwell, a vessel carved from clay or glass, filled with black ink made from soot and water. This ink, when applied to the parchment, would leave a mark that would endure through time. The scribe would lift the quill with a delicate precision, guiding it across the surface of the parchment, each letter forming with painstaking care. The parchment itself, made from animal skin, was a prized material. It was carefully processed, with the skin treated to achieve a soft, smooth texture. The size of the parchment could vary, but it was often about 8 inches wide and 12 inches long, a convenient size for the documents at hand. Each sheet would be stored in a wooden chest, lined with felt, to preserve its quality and protect it from the elements. The chest would often be kept in a cool, dry place, ensuring that the parchment remained free from humidity and pests. As the scribe crafted each document, they would adhere to a specific format, a structure that had been passed down through generations. At the top of the page, the title would typically read Contract of Feudal Obligation or Oath of Loyalty, setting the stage for the commitments to be outlined below. The scribe would begin with a formal salutation, acknowledging the lord and the vassal involved, often using titles that reflected their standing in society. The body of the contract would include precise details regarding the obligations of the vassal. It might specify the number of days of labor required each week, often 3 days, and the type of work expected, such as plowing, harvesting, or tending to livestock. Each task would be delineated with care, ensuring that the vassal understood their responsibilities. And then, little by little, the scribe would enumerate the resources provided by the lord, such as the use of land, tools, and livestock. The details would be exhaustive, aiming to avoid any ambiguity. Each item would be itemized, with the costs of any necessary provisions noted, creating a clear picture of the mutual responsibilities. The careful handwriting would flow across the parchment, each letter a testament to the dedication of the scribe. As the document neared completion, the scribe would meticulously check for errors. This review process involved reading aloud the words on the parchment, ensuring that each phrase flowed smoothly and accurately reflected the agreements made. The soft sound of their voice would fill the quiet room, echoing softly against the walls, creating a calming rhythm. Once satisfied, the scribe would move to the final touches, the seals and signatures. A wax seal would be prepared, often heated over a small flame until it melted into a puddle. The scribe would then press their signet ring into the warm wax, leaving an impression that signified authenticity and approval. The seal would confirm that the document was official, a binding agreement in the eyes of the law. After the contract was signed, it would be carefully folded, ensuring that the wax seal remained intact. The folded document would then be placed in an envelope, often made from parchment as well. This envelope would be labeled with the names of the parties involved and the date, ensuring easy retrieval in the future. The envelope would be stored alongside other contracts in the wooden chest, a repository of obligations and agreements. Namda. The storage of these important documents was not taken lightly. Each chest, often adorned with intricate carvings, would be locked securely. Only those with the proper keys, usually the lord or the scribe, would have access. This careful safeguarding offered a sense of security, protecting the intricate web of loyalty and responsibility that formed the backbone of feudal society. And so, as the day pressed on, the scribe would continue their work. Each document created would take several hours, perhaps a full afternoon. The light from the window would shift as the sun moved across the sky, casting soft shadows in the room. The rhythmic sound of the quill scratching against the parchment became a familiar melody, a lullaby of legalese that filled the quiet air. In the surrounding village, life would also follow its own routine. Farmers would rise early, tending to their fields, the smell of fresh earth mingling with the crisp morning air. The sun would warm the soil as they prepared for the day ahead. Each action, from sowing seeds to caring for animals, echoed the themes of obligation that were so deeply woven into the fabric of feudal life. And as the farmers worked, they would often think of the contracts they had signed, the duties they owed to their lords. It was a constant reminder of the balance that existed between labor and reward. The harvest would be a time of great anticipation, a culmination of their hard work, and a moment to reflect on the agreements that bound them to their land. Each season brought with it a new cycle of tasks, each task a thread in the fabric of their existence. In this way, the rhythm of life continued, a soothing cadence of duty and responsibility. The paperwork, often dull and tedious, served as a reminder of the connections formed through obligation. The contracts were not merely legal documents. They were a testament to the relationships built over time, the alliances formed, and the trust established between lords and vassals. And then, little by little, the sun would set on the horizon, casting a warm glow across the landscape. The day would transition into evening, bringing with it a sense of closure. As the farmers returned home, they would often gather to share stories, recounting the day's events. They would discuss the weather, the growth of their crops, and the contracts that bound them to their lords. As they settled in for the night, the warmth of their hearth would envelop them, a comforting reminder of the bonds that tied them to their land and to one another. With each breath, they would feel the weight of the day lift, allowing them to rest, to dream, and to prepare for another day of fulfilling their obligations. Let us breathe deeply, inhaling slowly, as we appreciate the gentle rhythms of life and duty, the soft echoes of history that resonate in our hearts. The tales of contracts and oaths may seem dull, yet they form the foundation upon which societies were built. In this quiet contemplation, we can find a sense of peace as we drift gently into slumber. Amen. As the twilight deepened, the lords and vassals would often find themselves surrounded by the artifacts of their agreements, the tools of their trade, and the weighty contracts that dictated their interactions. In the feudal system, each layer of obligation was documented with care, ensuring that all parties understood their roles and expectations. The parchment used for these documents was thick and heavy, made from the finest linen rags, and it bore the imprints of the quill, dipped in dark, rich ink. The scribe, a skilled artisan of written language, would often spend hours preparing the parchment. He would carefully measure each sheet, cutting it to a uniform size, usually around 8 inches by 12 inches. This precise measurement ensured that each contract fit neatly into the wooden chests where they were stored. These chests, crafted from sturdy oak, would protect the precious documents from the elements, safeguarding the promises made between lords and vassals. When the scribe was ready, he would dip his quill into the inkwell, a small vessel often made of clay or glass, and begin the slow process of writing. The quill, with its finely tapered point, would glide across the parchment, leaving behind a trail of elegant, looping letters. Each word was chosen carefully, as contracts were meant to leave no room for ambiguity. The phrases were often repetitive, reinforcing the obligations of both parties. I, the vassal, shall provide military service as deemed necessary by my lord, and in return, I shall receive protection and the right to work the land. With each stroke of the quill, the scribe would pause, allowing the ink to dry before moving on to the next line. This meticulous process could take hours, sometimes even days, depending on the complexity of the agreements being recorded. Each contract would typically be signed with a flourish, followed by the seals of both the lord and the vassal. These seals, made of wax and stamped with a unique emblem, were as much a part of the contract as the ink upon the parchment. They served as a mark of authenticity, a promise made visible. Once the documentation was complete, it was time for the vassal to come forward and pledge their loyalty. This ceremony, often held in the great hall of the lord's castle, was steeped in tradition. The air would be filled with the scent of burning wood from the hearth, and the flickering candlelight would cast shadows on the stone walls. The vassal would kneel before their lord, a gesture of submission and respect. As they knelt, they would place their hands between their lord's hands, a physical manifestation of their bond. The oath of loyalty, or homage, was recited with reverence. I pledge my loyalty to you, my lord. I shall serve you faithfully, defending your lands and your name. This solemn vow was not taken lightly. It was a moment that bound them together, a moment that echoed through the corridors of time. The Lord, in turn, would respond with a promise of protection, shelter, and support, reaffirming the cycle of duty and obligation. After the ceremony, the contracts would be stored carefully in the Lord's archive, a dedicated room often lined with shelves filled with documents of all kinds. The archive would hold records not just of feudal obligations, but also of land transactions, marriages, and lesser agreements. The importance of meticulous record-keeping cannot be overstated. It was not merely bureaucracy, it was a safeguard against disputes and misunderstandings. The archive would be kept at a comfortable temperature, protected from the dampness that could ruin the precious pages. The lords would often employ a steward to oversee the records, ensuring that they were well organized and easily accessible. This steward had the important task of cataloging the documents, often using a simple system of indexing. Each contract was given a number, and a small summary was written on a separate piece of parchment, which was then stored in a wooden box nearby. As the seasons changed, so too did the obligations outlined in these contracts. During the spring, the vassals would gather to assess the needs of the land. They would bring forth their tools, including plows made of sturdy wood with iron tips, and they would measure their fields, marking the boundaries with simple stakes. Each measurement was taken carefully, often using a measuring rope made of hemp, which would stretch taut as they calculated the area of arable land. The farmers, who were often vassals as well, would work together to prepare the soil. They would dig and turn the earth, breaking it up into manageable clumps, breathing in the fresh scent of the newly disturbed soil. They would plan their crop rotations, deciding on the best sequence to maximize their yield. This process, a delicate dance of nature, required patience and foresight, much like the contracts they had signed. As summer approached, the obligations shifted once more. The vassals would be called upon to fulfill their military duties, a stipulation often outlined in their contracts. They would don their simple armor, crafted from layers of leather and metal, and prepare for the possibility of conflict. This was not merely a test of strength, but a responsibility to protect their lord's domain. They would gather their weapons, swords and pikes, ensuring that they were well sharpened and ready. Throughout this cycle, the vassals would also maintain communication with their lords. This was often done through written letters, another form of documentation that required careful wording. The letters would be written in clear, concise language, detailing the happenings on their lands, the success of their harvests, and any issues that required the lord's attention. Each letter would be sealed with wax, ensuring that it would remain confidential until it reached its destination. When a letter was sent, it would be entrusted to a messenger, often a young boy or a trusted servant. The journey could be long, depending on the distance between the lord's castle and the vassal's lands. The messenger would ride on horseback, carrying the letter close to their heart, ensuring its safe arrival. Upon reaching the lord, the messenger would present the letter with a bow, a sign of respect for the hierarchy that governed their lives. Once the lord received the letter, they would open it carefully, taking note of the contents. If a response was required, the lord would call upon their scribe once more. The scribe would write a reply, addressing the concerns raised by the vassal, and the same process would repeat. The letters would be stored alongside the contracts, creating a comprehensive record of the ongoing relationships built on trust and obligation. As the days turned into weeks and weeks into months, the rhythm of feudal life continued. The contracts remained, a testament to the structure of society, even in times of both prosperity and hardship. The lords and vassals understood that their lives were intertwined, bound by the very papers that defined their existence. Each contract, each letter, each oath, formed a tapestry of duty and loyalty that was as vital as the crops they tended and the lands they defended. So, Eli, Ilin, Iwo, Gaira. And so, as the evening deepened and the sounds of nature quieted, the warmth of understanding enveloped the hearts of those who participated in this intricate dance of obligations. Each breath they took was a reminder of the life they shared, the bonds that held them together through the mundane yet significant acts of daily living. Let us breathe deeply, inhaling the gentle essence of history, allowing our minds to wander through the corridors of time and settling into the cozy embrace of knowledge. As we reflect on the meticulous routines of the past, we find comfort in the simplicity of duty, the clarity of contracts, and the soothing rhythm of life in the medieval world. Slowly and gently, let your thoughts drift as you prepare for a restful night. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a soft glow across the land, the world of medieval feudal obligations continued its steady rhythm. The lords and vassals, each in their appointed roles, understood the importance of the written word. The paperwork that bound them together was crafted with care, using simple yet durable materials. Parchment, made from animal skins, was preferred for its strength and longevity. Each sheet bore a faint sheen, a subtle reminder of the labor that went into its creation. Scribes, skilled in the art of writing, would take time to prepare their tools. The quills, plucked from the feathers of geese or swans, were sharpened to a fine point. They would dip these quills into ink made from soot and water, mixed with a binding agent like gum arabic. This ink, black and rich, flowed smoothly onto the parchment, transcribing the details of contracts and oaths with a careful hand. The process of drafting a contract was meticulous. First, the scribe would gather the necessary information. The names of the parties involved, the specific lands in question, and the duties to be performed. Each clause was crafted to ensure clarity, outlining the obligations of the vassal and the taxes owed to the lord. The length of the document could vary, often spanning several pages, depending on the complexity of the arrangements. Once the details were recorded, the parchment would be folded neatly. This folding was not merely for storage. It was a method of safeguarding the document. The folded paper was tied with thin strips of leather or twine, keeping the contents secure. This act of binding was performed with care, each knot tied with intention, ensuring that the contract remained intact through the seasons. After the contract was prepared, it would be presented in a formal setting. The lord, seated at an oak table, would review the document. The table, rough-hewn and sturdy, was often littered with other parchments and quills, each telling its own story of obligation and trust. The atmosphere was one of quiet anticipation. The vassal, standing respectfully before the lord, would wait patiently for the lord's scrutiny, knowing that this moment was crucial in affirming their relationship. A seal was often used to authenticate the contract. The lord would press a wax seal, warmed by the heat of a small flame, onto the parchment. This seal, embossed with the lord's insignia, was a symbol of authority and commitment. The vassal would then receive the document, carefully rolling it up and storing it in a secure location, often a wooden chest or a leather pouch. Storage was an important aspect of this process. Each vassal needed to keep their contracts safe, as these documents were proof of their rights and obligations. Wooden chests, often locked with heavy iron clasps, were common. Inside, the vassal would place not only their contracts, but also other personal papers, perhaps a record of debts or a list of goods received. Each item was stored with care, ensuring that the vassal could reference these documents when needed. As seasons changed, the vassals would attend to their lands, fulfilling the obligations outlined in their contracts. Each duty took time and effort. The vassals would often rise with the first light of dawn, tending to their crops before the heat of the day settled in. The cycle of planting and harvesting was not only a physical task, but also a time for reflection. Each seed planted was a promise kept, a reminder of the contract's stipulations. The work on the land was divided among family members. Each person had a role, whether it was sowing seeds, tending to livestock, or gathering the harvest. The rhythm of their tasks echoed the contracts they had signed, a testament to their commitment to the land and to their lord. The vassals understood that the fruits of their labor would support not only their families, but also the overarching structure of feudal society. As they toiled, the vassals would often gather in the evenings to discuss their days. This communal sharing fostered relationships, reinforcing the bonds of loyalty that the contracts required. They would recount the challenges faced, the successes achieved, and the intricate dance of obligations that defined their existence. The warmth of the fire and the flickering light created a cozy atmosphere, allowing for a soothing exchange of thoughts, much like the contracts that bound them. The contracts themselves were often revisited and amended. As circumstances changed, be it a bountiful harvest or a season of drought, vassals might find themselves negotiating new terms with their lords. These discussions were approached with caution, using respectful language and adhering to the etiquette established through generations. A gentle cadence would develop, with each party taking turns to speak, ensuring that all voices were heard. Mo, oi! During these negotiations, the role of the scribe was again crucial. New agreements were drafted, and old contracts were updated. The scribe would take great care to document every alteration, ensuring clarity and understanding. This could take several hours, as each word was chosen with precision, and every detail was scrutinized. The importance of fine print in these documents cannot be understated. Each clause, each stipulation, was crafted to protect the interests of both parties. Vassals were advised to read every line carefully, as the inclusion of a single word could alter the balance of obligations. The act of reading aloud was sometimes practiced, allowing for a shared understanding. Slowly and gently, the meaning of each phrase would unfold, ensuring that all parties left with a clear understanding of their duties. Neo. In addition to contracts, there were also oaths of loyalty to consider. These oaths were solemn declarations, often recited in the presence of witnesses. The vassal would kneel before their lord, placing their hand upon a holy book or a relic, pledging their allegiance. This act was steeped in tradition, carrying with it a weight of expectation. The words spoken were woven into the very fabric of their lives, binding them to a promise of service. The recording of these oaths was equally significant. Scribes would often document the ceremony, noting the date and the parties involved. This written account would serve as a reminder of the commitment made, a tangible representation of loyalty that could be referenced in times of uncertainty. As the moon rose high in the night sky, casting a silvery light over the land, the world of feudal obligations continued on, steady and unyielding. The paperwork, the contracts, the oaths, the detailed records remained as a constant, a comforting presence in the lives of those who navigated this intricate system. Wah! Ori. Let us breathe deeply, inhaling the gentle essence of history, allowing our minds to wander through the corridors of time. The soft rustle of parchment, the careful strokes of a quill, the warm glow of candlelight. These images linger in the quiet corners of our thoughts. Slowly and gently, we find ourselves wrapped in the coziness of the past, a past where duty and loyalty held a profound significance. Each breath we take connects us to the lives of those who once walked this path, their stories echoing softly in the stillness of night. As we delve deeper into the realm of medieval feudal obligation paperwork, we discover the tools and materials that were essential in crafting these documents. The scribe, a figure of importance in this system, would often use parchment made from animal skins. This parchment was meticulously prepared, requiring careful scraping and stretching, resulting in a smooth surface perfect for writing. The process of preparing parchment could take several days, as each skin needed to be cleaned and dried slowly, preserving its integrity for future use. The ink, a dark liquid made from carbon soot mixed with water and a binding agent, would be stored in small pots, often made of clay or glass. The scribe would dip his quill, fashioned from a bird's feather, into the ink, allowing the tip to absorb just enough to create clear, legible text. This careful preparation was essential, as the ink needed to flow steadily, allowing the scribe to write without interruption. Slowly and gently, the quill would glide across the parchment, creating lines of text that spoke of loyalty and obligation. In addition to the parchment and ink, seals played a vital role in confirming the authenticity of these documents. Seals were often made of wax, which was heated until molten, and then pressed with a stamp, usually bearing the emblem of the lord or vassal involved. This wax could be colored, often in deep reds or blues, adding a touch of elegance to the otherwise simple documents. The application of a seal was a ceremonial act, performed with care and precision, ensuring that the document could not be altered once sealed. As the scribe worked, he would often sit at a sturdy wooden table, perhaps in a quiet corner of a dimly lit room. The table, rough in texture, would bear the marks of many past writings, a testament to the countless hours spent penning contracts and oaths. The light from a nearby candle or oil lamp flickered gently, casting shadows that danced along the walls, creating a serene atmosphere conducive to focused work. Not far from the scribe, a collection of completed documents would be neatly stacked, bound together with twine or housed within a wooden chest. These chests, often carved with intricate designs, served a dual purpose. They protected the valuable contracts from damage, while also displaying the wealth and status of their owner. Within these chests, the contracts would be organized by date or importance, ensuring that they could be easily retrieved when needed. The process of completing a feudal obligation contract was methodical. First, the scribe would write the date at the top of the document, ensuring that the specifics of the agreement were anchored in time. Next, he would list the names of the parties involved, often including their titles and lands to establish their identities clearly. This was crucial, as many individuals might share common names, and clarity was paramount in legal matters. The scribe would take his time, writing each name slowly and gently, ensuring that no errors would mar the contract's validity. Following the names, the scribe would detail the obligations agreed upon. This section could range from military service to agricultural duties, each obligation articulated with care. For instance, a vassal might be required to provide a certain number of days of service each year, perhaps measured in weeks or months, depending on the lord's needs. The wording would be precise, establishing clear expectations and timelines, often specifying the penalties for failing to meet these obligations. Once the details were inscribed, the scribe would turn his attention to the oaths of loyalty. This part of the document was often the most solemn, as it represented the bond between the lord and vassal. The oath would be written in a larger, more decorative script, emphasizing its importance. Here, the scribe would carefully phrase the commitment, repeating key elements of loyalty and service to reinforce the gravity of the promise being made. Ew. After the oath was complete, the scribe would often take a moment to review the document, checking for any errors or omissions. This was a crucial step, as even minor mistakes could lead to misunderstandings or disputes. He would read each line slowly and gently, ensuring that the contract was both accurate and reflective of the agreement reached. Once satisfied, the scribe would call upon the parties involved to witness the signing. The witnesses, often trusted friends or associates, would stand by as the lord and vassal affixed their signatures, each stroke of the pen marking a significant moment in their relationship. The witnesses, too, would sign the document, their names adding an extra layer of validation to the contract. This act, while seemingly mundane, was steeped in tradition, reinforcing the community's role in upholding these agreements. After the signing was complete, the scribe would seal the document with wax, pressing the stamp firmly into the warm substance. This act, though simple in appearance, served as a powerful symbol of trust and fidelity. It was a promise that bound the individuals together, a tangible reminder of their commitments. Once sealed, the document would be placed in the chest alongside other important records. Each contract was stored with care, often accompanied by additional notes or correspondence that provided context to the agreement. The chest would be secured, perhaps locked with a small key, ensuring that the precious documents remained safe from prying eyes. In the days that followed, these contracts would be referenced as needed. Lords would consult their records to remind vassals of their obligations, while vassals could also refer to the documents to assert their rights. This system of record-keeping was crucial in a world where personal trust was paramount, and written contracts served as a physical manifestation of that trust. As we reflect on this intricate process, let us take a moment to breathe deeply, inhaling the calmness of history. Each step, each stroke of the quill, each seal of wax, these actions were performed with intention and care. The world of medieval feudal obligation paperwork may seem dull, but within its depths lies a rich tapestry of human relationships, woven together by contracts and oaths. Slowly and gently, we continue to connect with the past, finding comfort in the rhythm of these age-old routines. As we delve deeper into the mundane world of medieval feudal obligation paperwork, we find ourselves surrounded by the tools of the trade. The quill, a slender writing instrument crafted from a feather, was the preferred choice for scribes. It was sharpened to a fine point, allowing for delicate strokes on parchment. Parchment itself, made from animal skins, was a robust yet flexible medium for recording these important documents. The preparation of parchment was an art form, requiring careful treatment to ensure durability. Each sheet was cut to specific dimensions, often around 8 by 12 inches, suitable for the detailed writing that would follow. In some cases, multiple sheets would be joined together, creating scrolls that could extend for several feet. These scrolls were meticulously rolled up and secured with twine, ensuring that the contents remained intact and protected from the elements. Ink, too, played a vital role in this process. Made from a mixture of soot and gum, ink was often prepared fresh each day. Crafting the right consistency was essential, as too thick a mixture would clog the quill, while too thin would result in faded writing. Scribes often kept a small pot of ink close at hand, dipping the quill with precision as they transcribed each line, each phrase, and each clause. The actual writing process was deliberate and methodical. Scribes would often work in scriptoriums, dimly lit rooms filled with wooden desks, where they could focus on their task. The sound of quills, scratching against parchment created a soothing rhythm, a gentle backdrop to the careful transcription of legal agreements. Each letter was formed with purpose, the scribe taking time to ensure clarity and legibility. As the day progressed, the scribe would often pause to examine their work, ensuring that each contract reflected the terms agreed upon by lord and vassal. This was a ritual of sorts, allowing the scribe to immerse themselves in the language of obligation and loyalty. Each word carried weight, and the scribe was acutely aware of the significance of their task. Yea. Once completed, the document would be set aside to dry. This drying process required patience, as ink could smudge if touched too soon. The parchment would be laid flat, perhaps on a smooth surface, where the warm air could circulate around it. Time would pass slowly as the words settled into permanence, the ink darkening and solidifying. Once dry, the next step would be the addition of seals. Seals were an important aspect of these contracts. They served as a mark of authenticity, a way to verify that the document originated from the lord or the vassal. Wax was melted, often in a small dish over a gentle flame, carefully dripped onto the parchment. The lord or vassal would then press their signet ring into the warm wax, leaving an impression that spoke of authority and trust. The choice of wax color could also hold meaning. Red was often favored for its visibility, while other colors might indicate specific circumstances or preferences. Once applied, the seal would cool and harden, securing the edges of the contract. This act was not merely decorative. It was a crucial step in affirming the commitments laid out within the document. After the contract was sealed, it would be stored with great care. The chest or box designed for this purpose was often crafted from sturdy wood, perhaps oak or chestnut, and lined with soft cloth to protect the delicate parchment within. Each box would be labeled, allowing for easy access when the need arose. The process of filing these documents was methodical, ensuring that every contract was catalogued in a way that made sense. In larger estates, there would be dedicated clerks or assistants whose sole duty was the maintenance of this archive. They would skillfully navigate the shelves, retrieving contracts as needed. This organization was essential, as disputes often arose, and the ability to reference a specific contract could resolve disagreements swiftly. Each retrieval involved a soft patter of footsteps, the gentle opening of a lid, and the careful handling of parchment that had withstood the test of time. The etiquette surrounding these documents was also significant. When presenting a contract, one would do so with respect and formality. It was customary to bow slightly, acknowledging the status of the recipient, whether lord or vassal. The contract would be offered with both hands, a gesture that spoke of sincerity and mutual respect. The recipient would then take the document, reading through the carefully crafted phrases, absorbing the obligations that bound them. Timing, too, held importance in the world of feudal obligations. Contracts were often reviewed annually or at the close of each harvest season. This schedule allowed for adjustments and renewals, ensuring that both parties remained committed to their responsibilities. As the seasons changed, so too could the terms of these agreements, reflecting the ebb and flow of agricultural life. Danme. Once a contract was accepted, the vassal would often be expected to attend a formal ceremony. This event was more than simply signing a document. It was a public affirmation of loyalty. The ceremony would typically be held in the presence of witnesses, often friends or fellow vassals, creating a communal atmosphere of support and solidarity. During this gathering, oaths of loyalty would be recited aloud, binding the vassal to their lord and reaffirming their commitments. The significance of these oaths cannot be overstated. They were often deeply personal, spoken earnestly and with conviction. The act of swearing an oath was more than a mere formality. It was a rite of passage, marking the vassal's dedication to their lord and the entire feudal system. Each oath was a promise, a declaration of trust that resonated through the halls of the castle and into the surrounding lands. Once the ceremony concluded, the contracts would be returned to their respective boxes, safely stored until the next review. The cycle of obligation and loyalty continued, each contract a testament to the intricate web of relationships that defined the medieval world. Throughout this process, we can observe the meticulous nature of medieval life. Each tool, each material, and each step was essential, contributing to a broader understanding of duty and connection. The world of feudal obligation paperwork, while seemingly dull, reveals the quiet complexities of human relationships, binding individuals through written agreements and shared responsibilities. As we gently drift through this historical landscape, let us take a moment to breathe deeply, inhaling the calmness of the past. With each breath, we allow ourselves to settle further into the soothing rhythm of these age-old routines. The quill scratches against the parchment. The wax melts in a small dish. The oaths are spoken with sincerity. All these moments, these gentle actions, weave together a tapestry of trust and obligation that has echoed through time. Slowly and gently, we continue to explore this quiet world, finding solace in the ordinary yet profound details of medieval life. During as we meander through the subtleties of medieval feudal obligation paperwork, let us pause to consider the tools and materials that were essential to this meticulous process. The quill, a slender writing instrument made from the feather of a bird, often a goose, was carefully selected for its balance and flexibility. Each quill was trimmed to a fine point, dipped in ink, and allowed to glide smoothly across the parchment. The ink itself, a mixture of soot and water, was stored in small, shallow pots made of clay or glass. These pots were kept close at hand, ready for use, as the act of writing required a steady hand and a clear mind. The parchment, the canvas of medieval documentation, was crafted from animal skins, typically sheep or goats. Each sheet was carefully processed, scraped clean, and stretched taut to create a smooth surface for writing. The dimensions of parchment sheets varied, but typically, they measured about 24 by 36 inches before being folded and cut into smaller sections for contracts and agreements. These smaller sections, once filled with ink, would serve as lasting records of loyalty and obligation. As the scribe began to write, the faint scratching of the quill against the parchment would create a rhythmic sound, echoing in the quiet room. The scribe would often pause, allowing the ink to dry before moving on to the next line, ensuring that each letter was legible and precise. The careful craftsmanship involved in this process was a labor of love, requiring patience and attention to detail. The scribe, often a cleric or a trusted servant, understood the importance of their task, for the words they wrote would bind the vassal to their lord and solidify their place within the feudal system. Alongside the scribe, there would often be an assistant responsible for preparing the documents. This individual might gather the necessary tools, ensuring that the ink was fresh, the quills were sharp, and the parchment was ready. They would also be tasked with filing completed contracts in wooden boxes, labeled for easy access. Each box contained a specific type of document. One for oaths of loyalty, another for land grants, and yet another for records of service rendered. The filing system was essential, as it allowed feudal lords to quickly retrieve and review agreements when necessary. The documents themselves would often be sealed with a glob of warm wax, pressed with a signet ring to create a unique emblem of authority. This wax seal served as a signature of sorts, a way to authenticate the document and ensure its integrity. The wax was kept in small containers, often made of clay, to protect it from the elements. When sealing a document, the scribe would take care to apply the wax evenly, allowing it to cool just enough before pressing the ring into it. This process, while simple, was an essential step in establishing the legitimacy of the agreement. Oh, wow. Incendi. Fina. As we reflect on these simple yet profound rituals, we can begin to appreciate the time it took to complete each task. A single contract might require several hours to draft, review, and finalize. With careful attention, the scribe would write, pause, breathe, and then write again. Each stroke of the quill was a commitment, a promise made in ink and wax, echoing through the ages. The act of writing was not merely a task, it was a reflection of the values and priorities of the time. Nian, Nilamani, Nzishi, Yc. Whoa. To further enhance this process, the feudal lords often held regular meetings where vassals would gather to discuss their obligations and review the terms of their contracts. These meetings were scheduled with great care, often taking place during the cooler hours of the day, perhaps in the early morning or late afternoon. As the sun cast soft shadows across the grounds, the lords and vassals would sit in a grand hall surrounded by tapestries that told stories of valor and duty. During these gatherings, the documents would be laid out on a long wooden table, each contract carefully arranged according to its significance. The lord would begin by reading the terms aloud, ensuring that all present understood their responsibilities. The vassals, seated with respect and attentiveness, listened closely, nodding in agreement. This ritual of reading and reaffirming the terms served not only as a reminder of their obligations, but as a bonding experience, reinforcing trust within the feudal hierarchy. As the reading concluded, each vassal would stand to recite their oath of loyalty. This oath, a solemn promise to serve and protect their lord, was often delivered with a quiet intensity. The words chosen were deliberate, reflecting the weight of the commitment being made. After the oaths were spoken, the atmosphere would settle into a gentle silence, punctuated only by the sound of ink drying and parchment being shuffled. The importance of etiquette during these meetings cannot be understated. A vassal would never interrupt a lord while they spoke. This respect was fundamental to the relationship. Likewise, lords were expected to listen patiently to their vassals' concerns, acknowledging their service and contributions. This mutual understanding created a rhythm of dialogue, a dance of obligation and respect that underpinned the feudal system. After the meeting, the documents would be carefully restored in their designated boxes. Each box would be secured with a simple latch, ensuring that the agreements remained safe until the next review. This practice of archiving was slow and deliberate, a methodical way to ensure that history was preserved, one parchment at a time. Onaini, and these tea, and moirides. Alongside the contracts, notes would often be made in the margins, small reminders of upcoming tasks or changes in circumstance. These annotations, written in a smaller hand, served as a personal touch, a way for scribes to communicate nuances that the formal text might overlook. The act of writing in the margins, of adding those little details, was a gentle reminder that even in a world of legalese, the human element remained vital. As we consider these subtle details, Let us take a moment to breathe deeply, inhaling the calmness of the past. Each contract, each oath, each quiet moment of reflection was a step in the intricate dance of feudal obligation. The quill scratches against the parchment, the gentle sealing of wax, the quiet affirmations of loyalty. All these moments come together to form a tapestry of connection and duty, woven through time and space. Slowly and gently, we continue to explore this quiet world, finding solace in the ordinary yet profound details of medieval life. As we delve deeper into the world of medieval feudal obligation paperwork, let us consider the tools and materials that were essential to the creation and maintenance of these documents. The quill pen, often made from the feather of a goose or a crow, was the primary instrument for writing. Each quill would be carefully selected, the most skilled scribes knowing how to choose a feather that was both flexible and sturdy. The process of preparing a quill was meticulous. It would be trimmed with a small knife, the tip cut at an angle, allowing for smooth ink flow. Once prepared, the quill would be dipped into an inkwell, a small container often made of clay or glass, filled with ink made from soot mixed with water and the binding agent. The ink itself was a labor-intensive creation. It required careful measurement, often utilizing specific ratios. For example, a common mixture might include 1 part soot to 2 parts water, with a dash of gum arabic to thicken it, allowing the ink to adhere more readily to the parchment. This ink would dry slowly, leaving a rich, dark mark that could last for centuries if cared for properly. The parchment, the canvas for these written agreements, was made from animal skins, typically sheep or goats. The process of making parchment was lengthy and required great skill. The skins would be soaked in water and then stretched on a frame to dry. Once dried, the surface was scraped to create a smooth writing surface. A single sheet of parchment could take several days to prepare. The dimensions varied, often measuring around 12 by 16 inches, though larger sizes were not uncommon for more extensive agreements. Each piece would be carefully rolled or folded, stored in a cool, dry place to prevent damage. Now, let us consider the storage of these documents. A strong wooden chest or a leather-bound folder would often be used to protect them. The chest would be lined with cloth to absorb moisture, ensuring that the delicate parchment remained intact. Each document would be placed carefully, often tied with a simple string made of linen to keep them secure. In larger estates, where numerous vassal contracts were kept, a dedicated storage room would often be set aside, meticulously organized to allow for easy access. The organization of these documents was no small task. Often, a specific system would be employed. Contracts might be arranged by year, by vassal name, or even by the type of obligation. Each scribe had their own method, but all shared the fundamental goal of ensuring that these vital papers could be located when needed. The act of retrieving a document was a gentle ritual. The scribe or steward would approach the chest, perhaps taking a moment to breathe deeply, allowing the weight of responsibility to settle. The chest would be opened with care, the scent of old wood and parchment filling the air. Each document would be examined, the titles often written in a bold hand at the top, a simple yet effective way to identify the contents. As we continue to reflect on these practices, let us consider the etiquette surrounding the signing of these oaths and contracts. When a vassal presented themselves to sign, there was an unspoken ritual that accompanied the act. They would approach the Lord's table, bowing their heads slightly in respect. The table itself, often made from sturdy oak, would be covered with a simple cloth. sometimes adorned with the family crest. The Lord would sit at the head of the table, a comfortable chair placed in a position of authority. There would be a single candle burning softly, casting a warm glow on the parchment laid before them. The vassal would be given a moment to read the document, the quiet of the room enveloping them as the words were absorbed. In this moment, the act of signing became a solemn promise. The quill would be handed to the vassal, who would take it delicately, feeling the weight of the contract in their hands. The ink would be applied to the quill once more, and with a slow, deliberate motion, the vassal would sign their name. The ink might splatter slightly, a testament to the human touch in an otherwise formal process. Nintab. Once the vassal's name was inscribed, the lord would also sign, their signature often accompanied by a seal, pressed into warm wax to create an impression. This seal was an important part of the document, signifying authenticity and authority. The wax used was typically red or black, melted in small pots kept nearby. The lord would carefully apply the wax, allowing it to cool momentarily before pressing the seal, often depicting family insignia or symbols of power. Following the signing, a moment of reflection would often ensue. The parchment would be inspected, ensuring that all was in order, and then gently folded or rolled for storage. The process of finalizing the agreement was a tranquil affair, marked by a deep sense of duty and commitment. Each contract, each signature, echoed the trust placed between lord and vassal, a bond solidified through the mundane act of writing. And I saw the rhythm of this paperwork, the repetitive motions of signing and sealing, fostered a sense of calm within the daily lives of those who participated in it. The quiet hours spent scribing, the gentle flick of the quill, the soothing sound of parchment being rolled, all contributed to a slow, steady cadence that permeated feudal life. Let us pause for a moment, feeling the ebb and flow of these routines, the ordinary yet vital tasks that filled the days of lords and vassals alike. Each hour spent in this manner, each moment dedicated to the craft of documentation, was a thread woven into the fabric of society. The meticulous attention to detail reflected a commitment to order and stability, ensuring that obligations were clear and understood. As we draw our attention to the broader implications of these contracts, it is essential to recognize the sense of community they foster. The agreements were not merely legal documents. They represented relationships built on trust and accountability. The act of signing was a public declaration, one that would be recognized and upheld by all parties involved. In the quiet corners of medieval castles and manors, these moments of connection took place, creating a sense of belonging in a complex social structure. The dance of feudal obligation unfolded slowly, a rhythm of life that embraced both the mundane and the significant. Hiss, pow, nay. As we gently explore this world, let us continue to breathe deeply, allowing the soft sounds of ink on parchment, the delicate movements of quills, and the steady cadence of routine to lull us into a deeper state of relaxation. Each aspect of this mundane history whispers a story of commitment, connection, and the quiet power of written words. Slowly and gently, we immerse ourselves in the peaceful, methodical flow of medieval life. As we continue our journey through the intricacies of medieval feudal obligation paperwork, we find ourselves surrounded by the gentle, rhythmic sounds of daily life. Picture, if you will, a scribe's modest workspace, illuminated by the warm glow of tallow candles flickering softly in the dim light. The scribe, often a monk or a trained clerk, sat at a sturdy oak table, the surface worn smooth by years of diligent work, the edges softened with time and use. On this table, there lay an assortment of tools, each with its own purpose. The quill, crafted from the feather of a goose, tapered to a fine point for precise writing. The ink, a deep black mixture made from soot and gum, was stored in a small ceramic pot, its surface occasionally glistening as it caught the light. The scribe would dip the quill into the ink, allowing the excess to drip gently before beginning to inscribe the carefully crafted letters upon the parchment. Parchment itself, made from animal skins, was a prized material. Each sheet required meticulous preparation, soaking, scraping, and stretching to achieve the ideal writing surface. The parchment would be measured, often in sheets roughly 8 by 12 inches, though larger scrolls were not uncommon for more extensive documents. Each piece would be inspected for flaws. A blemish could render the entire sheet unusable. Wow. Once the parchment was ready, the scribe would begin the delicate task of writing. The letters formed with gentle strokes, flowing slowly across the surface. The scribe would often recite the text aloud, ensuring accuracy and clarity, the words echoing softly in the quiet room. Each letter, each word, was a building block in the structure of obligation and loyalty. The agreements themselves were formalized through a series of steps. Initially, the lord and vassal would convene to discuss terms, often in a sunlit courtyard or a small chamber adorned with tapestries. The lord would outline the expectations, detailing the services required, such as military support, agricultural production, or payment of dues. These discussions were not hurried. They unfolded slowly, each point addressed with care. Say. Once the terms were agreed upon, the scribe would begin to draft the contract. This process could take several hours, as each clause required precision. The wording was formal, often invoking the names of saints or the authority of the church to lend gravity to the agreement. The scribe's hand moved steadily, the quill gliding across the parchment, the ink soaking into the fibers, the scent of the ink mingling with the earthy aroma of the room. The contracts included not only the obligations, but also the rights of the vassals. A lord was bound to protect his vassal from external threats, to ensure fair treatment, and to provide justice. These clauses were critical, as they formed the foundation of the relationship. The vassal, in turn, would pledge loyalty, an oath solemnly taken, often before witnesses. This ritual was significant, a moment where personal honor and duty converged. Once the initial drafting was complete, the scribe would carefully review the document. This involved reading it aloud, checking for any errors or inconsistencies. It was a slow process, as even a small mistake could lead to misunderstandings or disputes. The scribe would pause between each line, contemplating the implications of the words, ensuring that every detail was correct. Each reading was a reminder of the gravity of the commitment being made, the trust being established. Nande Us. After the review, the contract would be affixed with a seal. The wax, often red or green, would be melted over a small flame, then pressed with the Lord's emblem, creating an imprint that signified authenticity. This was a moment of ritualistic importance, the seal serving as a tangible sign of the agreement. The weight of the wax, warm and pliable, transformed into a firm promise, binding the parties together in a web of obligations. Oh, once sealed, the document would be stored carefully. It was essential to keep these records safe, often in a wooden chest or a dedicated storage area within the castle or manor. The chest would be locked, and the key entrusted to a trusted steward, ensuring that the agreements remain protected. This process of storage reflected the respect accorded to these contracts. They were not mere scraps of paper, but vital documents that held the threads of social order. In some instances, multiple copies of the same contract were made. This was particularly common when the arrangement involved several vassals or multiple lords. Each copy would be signed, sealed, and stored, creating a web of accountability. The act of creating duplicates was a deliberate measure, a safeguard against loss or damage, ensuring that the obligations remained clear and enforceable. These contracts, often written in Latin, would include specific measurements and quantities. For instance, a vassal may have been required to provide a certain number of bushels of grain each harvest season. The amounts would be recorded meticulously, ensuring that both parties understood the expectations. The pricing of goods and services was also detailed, reflecting the complex economy of the time. Grain prices could fluctuate, and thus, contracts sometimes stipulated the conditions under which prices could be adjusted. During the harvest season, the vassals would gather their produce, often working in teams. There was a rhythm to this labor, a communal effort that echoed through the fields. The sound of scythes cutting through the grain, the laughter and shouts of workers, all woven into the fabric of agricultural life. After the harvest, the agreed-upon quantities would be weighed and measured, recorded in the same precise manner as the contracts themselves. As we breathe softly, let us consider the nuances of these arrangements. The contracts often included provisions for unforeseen circumstances, such as poor harvests or illness. A vassal might be excused from their obligations under certain conditions, a recognition of the unpredictability of life in the medieval world. These clauses allowed for a degree of flexibility, a gentle reminder that while obligations were important, compassion and understanding were also vital to maintaining harmony within the feudal system. Aye. The process of fulfilling these obligations was not a solitary endeavor. It involved entire communities, with neighbors often helping one another during busy seasons. This collaboration fostered connections and strengthened bonds, reinforcing the social fabric. The rhythm of life was punctuated by these moments of shared labor, the gentle ebb and flow of medieval existence, slowly and gently. As we continue to explore this landscape, we find that even the most mundane aspects of feudal obligation paperwork are imbued with a quiet significance. Each signature, each seal, and each obligation weaves together a tapestry of loyalty, trust, and shared responsibility. Each document is a silent witness to the complex relationships that define medieval life, whispering softly of the past, inviting us to rest in the comfort of its familiarity. In the quiet confines of those medieval castles, the ink flowed steadily, the parchment absorbed words of promise, and the ancient rhythm of life unfolded. Here, and then, little by little, we drift deeper into this peaceful, methodical world, where even the dullest details hold a subtle beauty. As we delve deeper into the enchanting world of medieval feudal obligation paperwork, we encounter the tools and materials that facilitated this intricate dance of loyalty and duty. The parchment, crafted from the fibers of flax or hemp, was meticulously prepared. Artisans would soak the fibers in water, then beat them until they formed a smooth paste. This paste was then spread onto a flat surface, dried in the sun, and polished to create the ideal writing surface. The ink, a mixture of soot and gum arabic combined with water, was carefully blended to achieve the right consistency. Scribes used quills, made from the feathers of geese or swans, which were sharpened at one end to create a fine point for writing. The quill, when dipped into the ink, transferred the carefully crafted letters onto the parchment, each stroke a testament to the solemnity of the words being recorded. The process of drafting a vassal contract was both precise and time-consuming. First, the lord or his appointed scribe would outline the specifics of the agreement. This included the names of the parties involved, the obligations expected from the vassal, and the rewards promised in return. The details were often exhaustive, specifying the amount of land to be held, the number of knights to be provided, and even the expected harvest yields. These contracts were accompanied by oaths of loyalty, witnessed by trusted members of the community. The act of taking an oath was solemn and significant. It involved the vassal placing their hand upon a relic or sacred object, affirming their commitment in front of witnesses. This ritual imbued the document with a sense of gravity, binding the parties not only in legal terms, but in a moral and spiritual sense as well. After drafting, the document required signatures. The lord would add his seal, often made from wax and stamped with an emblem representing his lineage. This seal was a mark of authenticity, a symbol of the authority behind the words. The vassal, too, would sign, perhaps using a simple mark if they were illiterate, but still participating in the act of commitment. The finished documents were then stored carefully. A lord's treasury or a clerk's office would house these records, safeguarded within wooden chests, often lined with felt to protect the precious parchment from wear and humidity. The importance of these documents meant that they were often indexed meticulously. Each contract, oath, and agreement was catalogued, noting the date of signing and the parties involved. The process of maintaining these records was an ongoing task. Each year, the lord would summon his vassals to renew their commitments, which involved reviewing the previous agreements. This annual gathering served to reaffirm bonds and ensure that all parties understood their obligations. During these meetings, the lord would often address his vassals, outlining expectations for the coming year. These gatherings were not grandiose affairs. Rather, they were quiet and purposeful. The atmosphere was often filled with the soft sounds of parchment rustling and the gentle murmurs of conversation. Each vassal would listen carefully, mentally preparing for the tasks ahead. In addition to the contracts and oaths, the minutiae of daily life were governed by an intricate web of obligations. For instance, the expected labor on the lord's land was often quantified in terms of days. A typical vassal might owe the lord 3 days of labor each week. This labor was carefully scheduled, typically starting at dawn. The sun would rise, casting a soft glow over the fields, as families gathered their tools and set out for the day. Tools were simple yet effective. Wooden plows, pulled by oxen, turned the soil, preparing it for planting. Sickle blades, crafted from iron, were used to harvest crops during the late summer months. These tasks were carried out with care, each movement rhythmic and deliberate. The sound of metal against wood, the gentle lowing of cattle, the rustle of straw underfoot, all formed a soothing backdrop to the daily routine. In the evenings, as the sun dipped below the horizon, vassals would gather their harvest and return home. The work was hard, yet it was woven into the fabric of their lives. Each chore and obligation reinforced their connection to the land and to one another. The act of sharing this labor created a sense of community. Neighbors often assisted each other, exchanging help for mutual benefit. If one family struggled to complete their harvest, others would come, offering their hands in solidarity. This practice was known as gleaning, where those in need would gather leftover grain or fruits after the primary harvest. The storage of food was another critical aspect of feudal life. After harvest, grains would be stored in granaries, built of sturdy timber, and elevated to protect the contents from moisture and pests. Families would carefully measure their supplies, knowing that they must last until the next harvest. This meticulous nature of inventorying reflected the importance of preparation and foresight. Within the household, the lady of the manor would oversee the management of supplies. She would maintain records of what was stored and what was needed. Her role was essential. She ensured that the household ran smoothly, that food was prepared, and that the family's needs were met. Even the etiquette associated with feudal obligation paperwork was steeped in tradition. When a vassal met with their lord, they would often bow, a gesture of respect. The lord, in turn, would address their vassal formally, ensuring that the relationship was defined by clear roles and mutual respect. This dance of politeness was an important part of the feudal system, fostering a sense of order and stability. Each interaction was an opportunity to reinforce loyalty, to reaffirm the bonds that held the community together. And so, the passing of time was marked not only by the seasons, but also by these cycles of obligation and respect. Slowly and gently, the days melded into years, each filled with the quiet, repetitive tasks that defined medieval life. With every document signed, every oath taken, and every obligation fulfilled, the feudal system hummed along, a vast interconnected web of duty and loyalty. Each thread, however mundane, contributed to the greater whole, creating a comforting tapestry that supported the lives of those who lived within it. So, as we take a moment to breathe, let us appreciate the beauty in the details, the quiet rhythm of daily life, the soft strokes of quills upon parchment, and the gentle flow of time in the world of feudal obligation paperwork. Each moment, each task, holds its quiet significance, inviting us to rest in the embrace of a simpler time, where even the dullest aspects of paperwork could weave together a story of connection and community. Oh, stop. As we delve deeper into the world of medieval feudal obligation paperwork, we find ourselves surrounded by an array of tools and materials, each serving a specific purpose in this methodical process. Picture, if you will, a simple wooden desk, worn smooth by countless hours of use, its surface marked by the ink stains of many a scribe. The desk is often made of oak, sturdy and reliable, providing a solid foundation for the tasks at hand. On this desk rests a small inkwell, filled with dark, viscous ink, made from a mixture of soot and water. The ink, once applied to parchment, glistens softly, a testament to the care taken in each stroke. Oh! In addition to the inkwell, there lies a quill, carefully crafted from a raven's feather or perhaps a goose. The quill is sharp, its tip expertly trimmed, allowing the scribe to create fine lines that dance across the parchment with ease. The parchment itself is made from animal skins, treated and stretched to create a smooth writing surface. Each sheet varies in size, typically measuring around 8 by 12 inches, although larger sheets are also used for more substantial documents. The edges are often left uncut, frayed slightly, a reminder of the meticulous process that brought them to life. As the scribe dips the quill into the inkwell, they begin the slow, deliberate act of writing. Each letter is formed with care, taking a moment to breathe, feeling the weight of the quill in their hand. The ink flows steadily, little by little, as they inscribe the names of vassals and lords, detailing oaths of loyalty and obligations. The process of writing a single document can take anywhere from a few hours to an entire day, depending on the complexity of the agreements involved. After the writing is completed, the scribe pauses, allowing the ink to dry slowly. It is important not to smudge the careful work. Patience is key in this tedious task. Once dry, the parchment is folded neatly, aligning the edges to create a tidy appearance. The folds are crisp, the edges smooth, creating a package that can be sealed and sent forth. Sealing the document introduces yet another layer of ritual. The scribe, or perhaps a trusted messenger, reaches for a small wax seal, a mixture of resin and pigment. This wax, heated gently over a flame, becomes malleable, ready to bear the insignia of the lord or vassal involved. The insignia is often a simple symbol, perhaps an animal or a geometric shape, representing the family or estate. Once the wax has melted, it is carefully dripped onto the folded parchment, and a stamp is pressed into the warm wax, creating a unique mark that signifies authenticity. The act of sealing is not merely functional, it is also ceremonial. Each seal carries with it the weight of trust and obligation, a promise that the contents within are to be respected and upheld. Slowly and gently, the wax cools and hardens, binding the document with a sense of finality. Now, let us consider the storage and organization of these important documents. The signed contracts and oaths must be kept safe, preserved from the elements and potential misplacement. Large wooden chests, often lined with felt or cloth, serve as repositories for these valuable items. Each chest is carefully labeled, sometimes with a simple inscription indicating its contents. The chests, sturdy and well-crafted, are often locked, ensuring that only those entrusted with the Lord's affairs may access them. Inside these chests, the documents are arranged systematically. Some may be grouped by year, others by the name of the vassal or lord. This organization is essential, allowing for quick reference when needed. The act of retrieving a document is a thoughtful process, requiring the careful unfastening of the chest, the gentle lifting of the lid, and the slow sifting through the papers, all while taking care not to disturb the order within. Saying meanwhile, as the weeks turn into months, and the months into years, the process of renewing oaths and contracts continues. Each vassal must reaffirm their loyalty, their obligations documented anew. This renewal often takes place in the early spring, as the thawing earth signals a time for fresh beginnings. The Lord, seated at the same well-worn desk, prepares for this cycle. Parchment is gathered, and ink is replenished, creating a familiar rhythm that echoes through the halls of the castle. When the time arrives, vassals are summoned, one by one, to stand before the Lord. Each vassal brings their own record of the previous agreement, a reminder of their commitments. The atmosphere is calm, the tension minimal, for this is a ritual, a dance of words and promises. The Lord reads the obligations aloud, the sound of their voice filling the chamber, weaving together the fabric of loyalty and duty. The vassals listen closely, nodding in agreement as they hear the familiar phrases, the carefully chosen words that bind them together. The contract is then amended, if necessary, to reflect any changes in circumstance. The ink flows once more as new obligations are penned, and the cycle continues, slowly and gently, reinforcing the bonds of feudal society. Once the contracts have been signed and sealed, the vassals depart, each carrying with them a copy of the agreement. These copies serve not only as a reminder of their commitments, but also as a means of accountability, ensuring that all parties adhere to the terms established. The exchange of these documents signifies a renewal of trust, a re-establishment of the delicate balance between lord and vassal. In the days that follow, the scribe once again finds themselves at their desk, engaged in the quiet task of record-keeping. They meticulously log the details of each agreement, inscribing them into a ledger, a thick book bound in leather, its pages filled with the neat script of past transactions. This ledger becomes a historical record, chronicling the relationships and obligations that define the community. As the scribe writes, they are aware of the significance of their role. Each entry is not merely a note. It is a snapshot of life, a reflection of the responsibilities that govern the lives of those who dwell under the feudal system. The ledger, too, is stored away, tucked safely alongside the chests of parchment, a testament to the passage of time and the enduring nature of these obligations. Wind. And so, with every document created, every seal pressed, and every promise renewed, the wheels of the feudal system turn slowly and gently, creating a landscape of loyalty and duty, where even the most mundane aspects of paperwork hold a quiet power. As we settle into this rhythm, let us take a moment to breathe and appreciate the serene cadence of life, intertwined with the weight of responsibility. Each obligation, each contract, forms a delicate thread in the intricate tapestry of medieval existence, inviting us to rest in the simplicity of structure and routine. Why? In the quiet hours of the medieval day, the sun rises slowly, casting a soft light over the stone walls of a humble manor. Within these walls, the daily routines unfold with a gentle rhythm. The lord of the manor, an individual bound by duty, prepares to review the obligations laid before him. His desk, a sturdy piece of oak, is adorned with parchment, quills, and inkwells filled with dark, viscous ink. Each item has its place, a testament to the order that governs both his life and the lives of his vassals. The quill, crafted from a feather, is trimmed to a fine point. It fits comfortably in the lord's hand, providing him with the necessary control to inscribe his will upon the parchment. As he dips the quill into the inkwell, the ink coats the tip, glistening in the morning light. Each stroke of the quill is deliberate, as he writes the names of his vassals, alongside their respective obligations. These names are more than mere letters. They represent the intricate web of loyalty that binds individuals together, each duty leading to another, like pearls on a string. The Lord pauses, allowing the ink to dry. He takes a moment to reflect on the weight of these obligations. Each contract carries with it the promise of support and protection, a pledge sealed with a blood oath. The parchment is not just a medium. It is a sacred vessel that carries the thoughts and intentions of those who sign it. As he considers the ramifications of each word, he feels the gravity of his role as a protector and provider. In another part of the manor, the steward busies himself with the daily accounts. His desk, cluttered with records, reflects a life dedicated to the management of resources. He meticulously measures grain, wine, and livestock, ensuring that every aspect of the estate runs smoothly. With a wooden abacus at his side, he counts and recounts, each bead sliding smoothly over the rods, clicking gently as they find their place. This sound, methodical and calming, echoes in the stillness of the room. The steward records his findings in a ledger, the pages worn from frequent use. He uses a soft cloth to wipe away any errant ink, maintaining the ledger's pristine condition. This care is crucial, for these records hold the key to understanding the estate's prosperity. Each entry details the amount of grain harvested, the number of sheep grazing in the pastures, and the barrels of wine stored in the cellar. The prices fluctuate with the seasons, but the steward remains steadfast, noting each change with precision. As the sun rises higher, the lord meets with his vassals to discuss their duties. They gather in the great hall, a space filled with long tables and wooden benches. The air is filled with the scent of fresh bread, baking in the kitchen nearby. The vassals arrive one by one, each carrying their own parchment, their own obligations. They bow slightly as they enter, a sign of respect and acknowledgement of the hierarchy in their feudal relationship. Each gesture is measured, practiced over years of tradition, conveying a deep sense of duty. The Lord presides over the assembly, a figure of authority cloaked in the responsibility of leadership. He listens carefully as each vassal presents their report, detailing their own obligations to the land and to him. These reports are often accompanied by offerings, small tokens of loyalty, perhaps a loaf of bread or a few coins. Each offering is more than a gift. It signifies commitment, a promise to uphold their end of the bargain in this delicate dance of feudal life. As discussions unfold, the Lord notes the details, creating mental images of the landscape he governs. He envisions the fields, each section designated for specific crops. The barley ripening in the fields, the wheat swaying gently in the breeze, and the vegetable gardens flourishing with life. These images blend seamlessly with the obligations discussed, for the health of the land is intertwined with the commitments made on parchment. Once the assembly concludes, the Lord returns to his desk, where the ink continues to dry on his latest contracts. He carefully reviews each one, ensuring that the terms are clear and fair. The contracts are written in a formal hand, the letters flowing smoothly across the page. The fine print, often overlooked, holds the essence of the agreements. It details the expectations and consequences, a reminder of the seriousness of their relationships. The Lord then seals each contract with his personal sigil, a wax stamp pressed firmly into molten wax. The wax cools quickly, forming a sturdy seal that signifies authenticity. Each seal is unique, an emblem of his authority. As he completes each contract, he places it in a designated box, a repository of agreements that will be referred to in times of need. The box sits on a shelf, surrounded by similar repositories, each filled with memories and promises. Now, outside, the seasons change, marking the passage of time in the feudal landscape. The changing colors of the leaves remind the Lord of the cycles of life and duty that govern his world. He contemplates the upcoming harvest, the obligations he must fulfill to ensure the well-being of his vassals. This reflection is a gentle reminder of the interconnectedness of their lives, of how each task contributes to the collective harmony of the manor. Throughout these tasks, the Lord finds comfort in the routine. The day unfolds slowly, each moment filled with purpose. He knows that the maintenance of order is essential for the stability of the community. The vassals rely on him, just as he relies on the careful management of records and the diligent work of the steward. As the sun begins to set, casting a warm glow over the manor, the day's paperwork draws to a close. The Lord tidies his desk, placing his quill in the inkwell, the last stroke of the day complete. He admires the neatly stacked contracts, the orderly ledgers, and the repositories filled with promises made. Each piece is a reminder of the solemnity of his responsibilities. Oh, with the day's duties fulfilled, he takes a moment to breathe deeply, allowing the tranquility of the evening to wash over him. The soft sounds of nature outside provide a soothing backdrop as he settles into the quiet of the manor. Each breath offers a chance to reflect on the delicate balance of obligations that define this life under feudalism. Guanzhou. And so, as the candles flicker to life, illuminating the parchment and the sturdy oak desk, the gentle hum of commitment continues in the background. The rhythm of medieval existence, where each obligation, each contract, serves as a reminder of the bonds that tie them together. Slowly and gently, they surrender to the embrace of routine, finding solace in the predictable cadence of their lives, bound together by the threads of loyalty and duty. Niece, as the evening deepens, the Lord's attention shifts to the details of his obligations. Each document before him is not merely a piece of parchment. It is a testament to the intricate web of relationships that define feudal society. The required contracts, known as charters, are crafted from the finest sheepskin, chosen for its durability and smooth surface. The quill, dipped in rich black ink, glides over the parchment, each stroke deliberate and measured. The Lord knows that the ink must be applied with care, ensuring that each letter is formed accurately, for mistakes can lead to misunderstandings. He pauses, allowing the ink to dry, the scent of the drying ink mixing with the faint aroma of beeswax from the candles. Each candle, carefully placed in its wrought iron holder, casts a soft glow that dances delicately across the pages, illuminating the fine print of duties and rights, obligations and privileges. He takes a moment to examine the details of a vassal's obligations, which often include military service and the payment of feudal dues. These dues are typically set at a standard rate, perhaps 1/10 of the harvest. The Lord reminds himself of the importance of maintaining detailed records of these transactions. Each harvest season, the vassals present their crops at the manor, where they are measured with care. The Lord utilizes a wooden measuring device, a simple yet effective tool marked with precise divisions for grains and produce. The vassals approach with their carts, filled to the brim, and the Lord oversees the weighing process carefully, ensuring fairness. The sound of the grains pouring into the measuring container creates a rhythmic, soothing cadence, echoing the trust placed in these age-old agreements. It is essential that the Lord maintains meticulous records of these exchanges, as disputes can easily arise. Using a ledger made of sturdy paper, each entry is penned in a flowing hand. The Lord, skilled in the art of writing, takes pride in the clarity of his scripts. The ink flows smoothly, and he often finds himself lost in the gentle repetition of the writing process, each number and letter forming a promise, a record of loyalty and duty. As the evening progresses, thoughts turn to the oaths of loyalty sworn by the vassals. These oaths are not taken lightly. They are steeped in ceremony and accompanied by the solemnity of tradition. A small gathering is often held, where the vassal kneels before the Lord, placing a hand upon the hilt of a sword or upon the holy relics that signify the weight of their commitment. The words spoken are deliberate and clear, echoing through the hall, resonating with the gravity of loyalty. The Lord recalls the importance of the witness to these oaths. Often, trusted advisors or fellow vassals stand by, carefully listening to the exchange. Their presence serves to reinforce the bond of trust, for these oaths are not mere words. They are the essence of feudal life, binding the lord and vassals together in harmony. After the ceremony, the details of the oath must be recorded. The parchment is prepared, a fresh piece laid out before the Lord. He uses a simple wooden frame to guide the quill, ensuring straight lines and even margins. The words of the oath are inscribed with the utmost care, the Lord's focus unwavering. Each stroke of the quill becomes a part of the history of his lands. Once the oath is recorded, it is typically sealed with warm wax, the imprint of the Lord's seal pressed gently into the surface. This wax, gathered from the beehives nearby, is a rich golden hue, glistening softly in the candlelight. The Lord takes his time, ensuring that the seal is clear and legible, a mark of authenticity. The wax seal represents not only the authority of the Lord, but also the weight of the agreements made. It serves as a reminder of the responsibilities undertaken by both parties. These contracts, with their ornate seals and careful wording, are stored in a wooden chest, lined with soft cloth to protect the delicate documents. The chest itself is a work of craftsmanship, made from sturdy oak, polished to a smooth finish. The Lord knows the importance of keeping these contracts safe, for they are the foundation of his rule. Each document is carefully placed within, organized by date and type, ensuring easy access when needed. What? Nis. Afar. As the evening deepens further, the Lord turns his attention to the obligations that extend beyond mere contracts. The relationships built upon these contracts require nurturing. Each vassal's family is also considered, and often the Lord will host gatherings to strengthen these bonds. These feasts, while seemingly simple, are intricate affairs. The preparation begins days in advance. Fresh ingredients are gathered from the Lord's own lands, where the fields are tended with care. A variety of meats, grains, and vegetables are selected with attention to seasonal availability. The kitchen staff, consisting of skilled cooks and apprentices, work tirelessly to prepare a banquet that reflects the bounty of the land. They chop and saute, knead dough, and roast meats over an open flame, filling the manor with enticing aromas. Table settings are arranged with precision. Long wooden tables are adorned with linen cloths, hand-stitched by the local seamstress. Each place setting includes a wooden plate, a simple knife, and a drinking vessel, often made from clay or wood. The presentation is humble yet thoughtful, a reflection of the community's shared heritage. As night falls, the soft flicker of torches illuminates the dining hall. The vassals gather, exchanging pleasantries and laughter, their obligations momentarily forgotten. Yet, even in this joyous setting, the underlying commitments remain present. The Lord observes the interactions, knowing that these moments of camaraderie fortify the bonds of loyalty and trust. The evening's festivities often conclude with the sharing of stories, tales of valor and wisdom passed down through generations. The rhythm of the evening settles into a calm lull, where the weight of duty mingles with the lightness of fellowship. Each story, each shared laugh, becomes another thread woven into the fabric of feudal life. Ah, Throughout the night, the Lord reflects on the delicate dance of obligation and reward, the balance that sustains his realm. He knows that this cycle of paperwork, oaths, and gatherings is not merely a chore, but a vital aspect of governance. The quiet fulfillment of duty becomes a source of strength, a gentle reassurance that they are all part of something greater. As the candles burn low and the chatter softens into murmurs, the Lord feels a sense of peace. The day's labor, filled with the minutiae of contracts and agreements, has forged a path forward. Each document, each obligation, is a step toward the stability of his domain. The mundane nature of this work, the slow and steady rhythm of life under feudalism, is what binds them all together, softly guiding them into the night. Oh, then, as the evening deepens, the world outside falls into hushed silence. The Lord's household settles into a familiar routine, one defined by the ebb and flow of feudal obligations. In this intricate web of duty, the paperwork becomes an essential tool. Each document crafted with careful precision, each ink stroke a testament to the loyalty and agreements binding the vassals to their lord. The tools for this meticulous work are simple yet essential. A well-worn wooden desk stands firm in the quiet chamber, its surface cluttered with parchment, quills, and inkpots. The ink is a rich dark hue, made from soot mixed with water and a binding agent, perhaps gum arabic, ensuring a smooth flow upon the page. The quills, fashioned from the feathers of geese, have been sharpened at both ends, allowing for fine lines and bold strokes, depending on the necessity of the document. As the Lord prepares to draft a new contract, he takes a moment to breathe deeply. The smooth surface of the parchment is inviting, its texture slightly rough against his fingertips. He carefully measures a piece, often using a ruler made of wood, about 1 foot in length. With a steady hand, he draws the lines, ensuring that there is ample space for signatures and seals. This is a delicate process, one that demands patience and focus. In the candlelight, he begins to write, his mind steadily reflecting on the details of the agreement. He records the names of the parties involved, the dates, and the specific terms of service. Each obligation is articulated clearly, often employing the standard phrasing used in previous documents. This repetition lends a sense of familiarity and ease. The vassal shall provide 3 days of labor each month, he writes, and in return the Lord shall provide protection and access to the lands. There is a rhythm to this work, a soft cadence that emerges as he writes. He pauses occasionally, allowing his thoughts to flow like ink across the page. After drafting the central agreement, he meticulously outlines the penalties for breach of contract. If the vassal fails to comply, he notes, the Lord reserves the right to withhold support. The language remains formal, almost poetic in its structure, ensuring clarity and understanding. Once the text has been completed, the Lord gently rolls the parchment to prepare it for sealing. He retrieves a small wooden box, housing the wax and the seal that bears his family crest. The wax, warmed gently by the flickering candles, melts into a deep red pool. A small brass ladle, shaped to catch the wax perfectly, allows him to pour just the right amount onto the seam of the parchment. As the wax cools, he retrieves the seal, an intricately carved piece depicting a lion. He presses it firmly into the wax, creating a perfect imprint that signifies authenticity and authority. This ritual, both calming and satisfying, reassures him of the importance of each document. It is not merely ink on a page, but a binding contract of trust and responsibility. With the agreement seal, he places it into a wooden chest, lined with felt to protect the documents from the elements. This chest, a sturdy piece crafted from oak, is organized meticulously. Each document is categorized, labeled with care, ensuring that when obligations arise, they can be retrieved with ease. The Lord knows that the act of storage is as significant as the act of creating. Both serve to maintain order in his domain. In the quiet of the chamber, the Lord reflects upon the schedules that govern daily life. Each day begins with the rising sun, its rays illuminating the paths of duty. The vassals, each assigned their tasks, rise early, often before dawn. They gather in the courtyard, the sound of their footsteps muffled by the morning mist. The Lord envisions them forming small groups, each discussing the day's assignments, their voices low and purposeful. No. Some vassals head to the fields, their hands calloused and strong from years of labor, while others tend to the livestock, ensuring the animals are fed and cared for. Each task is vital, forming the backbone of the Lord's estate. The rhythm of work continues throughout the day, punctuated only by the sound of the bells ringing at midday, calling everyone to break for a simple meal. The midday meal is a communal affair, often consisting of hearty bread, cheese, and perhaps a bowl of porridge. Vassals gather around large wooden tables, sharing stories of their tasks and discussing the obligations tied to their lord. This time together fosters camaraderie, a gentle reminder that their lives are intertwined within this feudal tapestry. As the sun sets, signaling the end of the workday, the vassals return, weary yet content. They bring with them the fruits of their labor, whether it be freshly harvested grains or livestock gathered from the fields. The Lord takes the time to acknowledge their efforts, offering words of gratitude, reinforcing the bonds established through these daily interactions. The evening's calm allows for the vital exchange of paperwork once more. The Lord may receive reports from the vassals detailing their accomplishments and any challenges faced. Each report is carefully reviewed, often leading to the drafting of new obligations or adjustments to existing agreements. This cycle of communication is crucial, a dance of words and duties that ensures the harmony of his estate. In the quiet of the evening, as the candles flicker softly, the Lord may find himself reflecting on the nature of loyalty and obligation. The paperwork, although mundane, becomes a source of comfort. The repetition of routines, the structure of life under feudalism, offers a sense of security. He understands that the agreements are not simply a means to an end, but a living document, constantly evolving with each new season, each new challenge. The details matter, for they encapsulate the lives of the people dependent on this system. The ink, the parchment, the wax, each element combines to form a tapestry of existence, a delicate balance of duty and trust. As the hour grows late and the world outside fades into darkness, the Lord closes the wooden chest, securing the documents within. He extinguishes the candles, watching as the last flickers of light dance before surrendering to the night. This ritual, this calm conclusion to the day, signifies not just an end, but a promise of continuity. Tomorrow will bring more paperwork, more agreements, and more oaths of loyalty. The cycle continues, slowly and gently, binding the Lord and his vassals in a shared journey through the mundane intricacies of feudal life. Each document, each signature, is a testament to their collective existence, woven together in the quietude of their daily routines. As we conclude our gentle exploration of medieval feudal obligation paperwork, we have witnessed the intricate web of vassal contracts, the solemn oaths of loyalty, and the meticulous nature of legal agreements. These documents, filled with fine print and formalities, served as the foundation for relationships between lords and vassals. Each contract, though dry and tedious, was steeped in the weight of duty and expectation, slowly shaping the landscape of medieval life. We may imagine a quiet room, illuminated by the soft glow of candlelight, where the air is still and a sense of calm envelops the body, inviting relaxation and rest. If you enjoyed this soothing journey through the mundane details of history, please consider liking, subscribing, or leaving a gentle comment. And remember to turn on loop, so this tranquil tale can repeat, guiding you into deeper relaxation.